Welcome in, everybody. Day 4.
Woohoo.
Woohoo! Getting started in security with BHS and MITRE ATT&CK.
Doing our thing.
Yes, he's coming at you live from the barn, it looks like.
I am back at the barn.
Back at the barn. So, welcome in. Hopefully everybody is all rested up and ready to learn about hosting firewalls. Host firewalls. Is it hosting or host?
Nope, host firewalls.
Host firewalls.
Yeah, it's like the firewalls on your individual computer.
Ah, gotcha.
So
I should know this by now. I've taken this class about
been through this enough times. You've been through
I try and learn by osmosis, just by sheer absorption.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a couple more minutes. We got people rolling in.
They are rolling in. Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome to our streamers. Again, last warning for the people that are watching via the streams.
Oh, that's loud.
Please make sure that you register. I will put a link in Discord in a minute. Make sure that you are registered if you need a certificate of completion. Without registration, we don't really know who you are, so we can't send you a certificate.
We still like you.
We still love you.
But
we don't know who you are.
We don't know who you are.
And we would like to know who you are so that we can send you a certificate. So please do that.
Trying to get a hold of you to see your certificate insurance is expired.
Yeah. We got about another minute, and John will be going right into content. And then you usually end a little early on the last day, don't you?
Yeah, we're going to end a little early today.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But everybody definitely needs to stick around for the very end of class because it's very meaningful.
We have stuff for you too.
Yes, we always have stuff.
Lots of stuff.
The stuff.
Okay. Oh, it's time. Let's do
it. Well, we will be backstage. If you need us, send us a message, and I'll put the link up again for those that haven't registered yet. But welcome to class. We'll see you at the end of class today.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to the last day of BHIS Getting Started in Computer Security. We're going to jump straight in and we're going to start talking about host-based firewalls and discuss why this is so incredibly important for any security support structure that anybody's actually working. Got everybody here. Oops, I'm on the wrong one. Let me getting started. I'm in the resources. There we go. Right. We're having some people with the YouTube links. One person had a problem with that. Thank you to the team, Simply Cyber people. We greatly appreciate all of you. All right. So whenever we're looking at the MITRE attack technique matrix and as it relates to host-based firewalls, this is absolutely one of those areas that shuts down a lot of lateral movement. I just had a bunch of snow slide off the side of my building. That was a bit disconcerting. But it sounded like an avalanche. I'm having flashbacks. So when you're looking at like the lateral movement post-exploitation, if you talk to somebody that does nation state level attacks, right? If there's things out there that are really, really terrifying to anybody that's ever done any nation state level attacks, it's this. Because once you gain access to an environment and as soon as you try to pivot to any other systems on that environment, you're automatically getting your ass kicked. And every single one of those host-based firewalls becomes a point of detection within the organization. We're going to talk about how this relates to that concept of overlapping fields of visibility and protection in an environment as part of that defense in depth strategy. So if we're looking at segmentation, a lot of organizations run what we call flat networks. And what a flat network is is basically you'll have different subnets, of course, but you're able to gain access to any other resource anywhere else in that network at all. So when we're looking at proper segmentation, that proper segmentation should be between the subnets. You can implement this on your firewalls on the inside of your environment if you have them. You can also implement these types of restrictions on your internal routers through things like access control lists, and most of your routers today should be full firewall type compatible. But you want to set it up on the subnet, but you can also go down to the individual host level of the system as well. And this is where those host-based firewalls really come in and start to shine. So we're looking at this. So what types of attacks does this stop? First and foremost, you can stop attacks like pass the hash attacks, where I download malware onto a computer system, and then I dump the passwords. This could be done with something like Mimikatz or Metasploit, or any number of different tools have the capability of actually dumping password hashes from computer systems. But once we get those password hashes, we can crack them. But with tools like psexec, we can actually use that password hash as a clear text password. This sounds crazy, but bear with me. If you authenticate to a computer system over psexec, you can do it in a couple of different ways, but let's talk about NetNTLM v1, v2, and LANman authentication. So when you're communicating, you actually send your password hash clear text. So this is hard to get people's heads around. Why is Telnet bad? Does anybody know why is Telnet bad? Any takers on that? Why is Telnet and FTP bad? It's sent unencrypted. Specifically, we're looking at the data, but we're also looking at like the passwords, right? Right? I don't want my password for a server going over Telnet where anyone can sniff it on the wire. Now, let me walk through how Microsoft authentication works, right? I can take a password hash. I don't even have to know what that password is, and I can authenticate. So whenever you're working with something like psexec, you can actually authenticate. You know what? I should create a lab on this. This would be a really cool lab. I think we need to do this. All right, so let me explain how it works. So whenever you take your password, it's going to be hashed into NT, predominantly on Windows computer systems. And that is a straight MD4 hash of the password. When you authenticate from one Windows system to another Windows system, the password hash is utilized in authentication protocol. That is LANman authentication, NT authentication, and then NTLM v2, which is very, very different. The first two are the same. The only thing that's different is the hash that's being sent. But it actually transmits your password hash to the remote computer system clear text. So it is functionally the same as authenticating over a clear text protocol where I can get your password, because what the computer on the other side is doing is they're comparing the password hash. All right. So that's kind of weird. I'm using pure leaf tea this morning, unsweetened, because I don't need sugar. So I don't know how you feel about this, but during the next lab, I'll see if I can gen up a demonstration real quick. How does that sound? Does that sound good to everybody? See what I can do. All right. All right. So that means if you have no internal segmentation and you have no firewalls whatsoever, one of two conditions can exist. Either A, I can use Kerberos authentication and log into all of the workstations with my domain credentials, or I can get a password hash from a system and reuse that password hash on multiple other computers out there as well. That's the token attack. Make the assumption that you're going to get compromised and understand that this type of attack and lateral movement exists. If you start with that assumption that somebody can gain access to the inside of your network, the question then becomes, why are your computers more secure at a Starbucks than they are at work? Most of your computer systems at work, as soon as they are on the network, they basically shut down they shut down all their firewalls. Any workstation can talk to any other workstation. But if they're at Starbucks, they're like, oh no, this network is hostile. You should always treat the internal network as hostile, because it is. And all of this boils down to some very quick axioms. It is acceptable to get compromised. You're going to get compromised. It's almost impossible to stop. But what is unacceptable is for the attacker to very quickly escalate their privileges to full domain administrator. What is unacceptable is an attacker to persist for months. And we can shut these types of things down in the environment as well. There's some other things that you can do with host firewalls. You can implement private VLANs. You can also implement 8021X, where there's VLAN level security, private VLAN level security, where the ports themselves are not allowed to communicate to each other. And that's being managed by network access control as well. All right, so there we go. So here is the standard exploit, right? I somehow get malware on a computer system and I put the shad poison face on that computer system. Womp, womp, womp. Oh. Now, once I am on that environment, okay, once I am on that environment, then in many environments, I can move laterally without any worries or concerns as an attacker of getting caught. I can use PS exec, I can use pass the token, I can use our desktop, I can use pass the hash. These are built-in Windows protocols, and in many networks, they will not trip IDS or IPS alerts because it looks like standard authentication on the network. So I very quickly escalate my privileges for all of these other workstations moving laterally, and I find a pathway to gain access to the domain Active Directory domain controller. Are we going to stick with Princess Bride's references today? Is that what we're doing? Inconceivable. All right. I think the theme is going to be Princess Brides. All right. So let's say that you start out with malware, all right? You load a rat, and let's say it's a very large rat, a rodent of unusual size that I put on that initial workstation. And I do that because if the malware is large enough, then a lot of AVs won't even look at it. They won't even try to parse it because it's a rodent or a rat of unusually large sizes. No, Princess Bride, please. It's too late, Anita. Now it's on. Now it's on. There you go. All right, and then I can move laterally. So whenever you treat the internal network as hostile because it is hostile, then it means that as soon as I start moving laterally to all of those other workstations, one, I'm going to get stopped. And the better thing about it is you will most likely generate alerts, and your IDS, not your IDS, your AV, your host-based firewalls can generate alerts back to the security team, notifying people that there is some type of lateral movement that's being done. And this makes sense because why do you need to have workstations talking to each other? Workstations should be talking to servers. Workstations should be talking to services on the web. They should be able to talk to, cloud services. There's no reason for these different systems to communicate to each other. And this gets into, somebody had made a joke about zero trust networks, and I'm a firm believer in zero trust networking, right? Your system should never trust the network. They should never trust any of the other systems in that environment at all. They just shouldn't. However, the problem is with zero trust, a whole bunch of vendors co-opted it, and then it quickly became a buzzword in the industry that everyone was like, oh, well, this is zero trust networking, and we founded zero trust networking. And none of it was like zero trust networking. Zero trust networking is basically your hosts do not trust the network. All right. That's basically what it boils down to. All right. Now, showing this lateral movement and how it works. If I gain access to that initial system where I have some poison, right? We've got poison. Oh, Belle Biv DeVoe. We can move off of Princess Bride and we can move to Belle Biv DeVoe poison references. There we go. So now we get malware on that system. And now if I try to move laterally, I have these host-based firewalls on all of these different systems that is now going to stop me, and it's going to generate alerts on the environment as well. And this ultimately boils down to architectures. And this is one of those things that my wife gets a little uncomfortable with me talking about, which, by the way, never open a conversation with that at Thanksgiving. Like, no, this thing, my wife gets a little uncomfortable when I talk about it. Doesn't go over well. But my wife is a structural engineer, right? She designed everything you see behind me. Like, you see the little black things right here? She designed those. She designed the trusses. She designed all of the connections that are in this building. And I spent a lot of time going through her books like the AASHTO, load factor resistance design, all of these different standards. And one of the things that stuck out to me is that everything in structural engineering is based and predicated on the concept of failure. My wife can tell you the exact failure or the failure range for all of the different beams and everything that we have in this shop. She knows what they are. So when they design their architecture, knowing the failure points of the various components. And they design it in such a way that individual components by themselves, if they're all supporting each other, and usually if one by itself fails, it doesn't lead to a catastrophic, deadly collapse of the entire building. We need to be looking at our security architectures like that. We have that type of overlapping connectivity. We have that overlapping field of visibility in our security products. And one compromise in a standard workstation doesn't lead to a total collapse of everything in that environment. Back to the fields of visibility. So we have AV EDR, network security monitoring, we have SIM, we have endpoint, we have user entity behavioral analytics. You can also add in host-based firewalls to this as well. If any of these things fail, like if the AV fails, you still have NSM. If the SIM fails, you're still going to have NSM and AV. All of these things are built to help each other out and be redundant. Now, on your Windows systems, there is a firewall that is in fact built in. It's simple built-in firewall. It's awful. It's really not a good firewall, like at all. Like it just isn't, right? It's bad. You should turn it on. Like you really, really should turn that firewall on. It's far better than nothing at all, right? It's like Ned Flanders. Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Stupid, sexy Flanders. But you should turn that on. Turn on this firewall because it's going to stop trusting other systems in your environment. And you can push out group policy settings that will allow your workstations to talk to and be talked to from servers and domain controllers, backup servers, help desk systems, administrator systems, but they will not be able to talk to each other. Many of your endpoint firewalls have this built in. Many of your advanced next generation firewalls have this capability built in and working. They just do, right? You can set it up in McAfee and Symantec and Trend and on Sophos and all of these, that your systems can be configured from centralized management console in the cloud, where you can watch it, manage it, and control it across your entire environment as well. All right, so now we have that firewall where I'm very quickly going to try to modify this lab. Let's see if I can get you guys to do this lab, and I can try to modify the lab with some additional cool stuff to demonstrate the risk of this. How does that sound, everybody? All right, so the lab that we are doing is going to be, let me go to the intro labs remastered, pull this down, pop it down here. I don't know if I can get it copied, pasted, and written. We'll give it a shot. Why not? Let's see. Now, if it doesn't work, people are gonna be like, "Oh, well, this stupid class is dumb. You should feel bad." Let me see what I do here. All right. I think we'll see. All right. It might be just a wireframe. So we're going to be doing this lab right here. Because the never-ending story. So yeah, now I'm thinking about the horse. What was the name of the horse? Never-ending. Actually, everything died. Like the whole planet was destroyed. That sucked. Yeah, thanks for bringing that down. Atreyu. Yep. All right, so we're going to do the host-based firewall labs, and I'm going to try to at least come up with a demonstration of pass the hash and why it's so important that we have those firewalls enabled. So let's get to this lab. Let's put 20 minutes on the clock, Ryan. Let's put 20 minutes on the clock, and let's see if I can come up with a demonstration within 20 minutes. Because why not? This is like YOLO sec training. All right, start the lab. I want 20 minutes, and I have to wait 2 minutes to be able to, oh, and I don't have money. I got to buy credits. Credits really, really quick. All right, gonna pay. Right, processing. So it should be a good day. All right. Nice. Let's go back to Cloud Labs. Nice, there we go. All right, let's get rolling. What? All right, let's do it. right. Let's go ahead and do this. And I'm just going to walk you through what we have here so far. Um, and then I'm putting everything into the instructions so you guys can see it. So you're actually going to see how I create my labs in a really dirty sketchpad kind of way, right? All right, so what we did so far is we're getting our IP address. We're disabling the antivirus on our Windows computer system. You can see right here, we're disabling AV. We're disabling our firewall because we want to show what it looks like whenever somebody has their firewall off. What can an attacker actually do? Now I'm setting my password to be administrator password 1234. Once again, really, really simple. But honestly, the password doesn't matter. If I wanted to, I could make the password really long. We could set the password supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though the sound of it is somewhat quite atrocious. It wouldn't matter what the password actually is. Okay, it just wouldn't. In fact, I can. Well, I've already got a interpreter session. Actually, just let me do this. Let me kill this whole thing and we'll just start over from scratch. So we're going to kill that terminal right there. And let's go ahead and do that. Let's set up a really long password so you guys can see like why this is so deadly. If anybody can get access to the password hashes on any of your systems, especially if that password hash is reused in any way, you're just kind of hosed. So your password policy just doesn't matter at that point. So I'm going to change that password to be something really long. Let's go ahead and net user administrator password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 exclamation point at pound now aside from the fact that it has password in it, do you think that this is actually a secure password? Like, if somebody were to create a password of that on like, how long would it take to crack that password? How long would that take? Oops, I have PowerShell did not like that. So we'll just kind of make that once again. It doesn't matter. How long would that take to crack? So it would take roughly to the heat death of the universe, right? Heat death is a long, long, long time out there as well. Yeah, but so Shauna, like if you're trying to crack it, you ain't gonna crack that password. Now, if you saw it, yeah, well, it just wouldn't matter. But I'm gonna kind of show you that it doesn't matter. Like you can make the password 128 characters long. It just it's bad, but it's going to take a long time to brute force that password. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you why it's so important to have that firewall, because if an attacker ever gets into a situation where they have the ability to gain access to any of your password hashes, it doesn't matter what the password is, because Windows treats that password hash as though it is a clear text password. All right. So I have all of this information. We're at this particular point right now, and I'm typing in the instructions with screenshots as we do this. I cannot stress this enough. I don't care what your password is. If you have an administrator password hash that is reused, if you have a service password hash that is reused in multiple different places, we have the ability to use that password hash instead of the password to authenticate. All right. So I'm going to show you what it looks like in both ways. So we're going to use exploit. We're going to choose Windows SMB for authentication, PS exec. Now, PS exec and Metasploit will work with the SMB password, and you can use the password hash as the password to gain access as well. All right. So here we go. No. In Active Directory, if you get domain controller, you can pull all these password hashes out of a file called ntds.dit, or you can pull it out of a volume shadow copy. Just do a volume shadow copy, pull that file off, and then you get the password hashes on that as well. All right, so we've got that set up. So I'm just going to copy in my instructions here really, really quickly. Just make sure I'm adding each of the instructions in as we go, just so we have that. Now I'm going to come back later and I'm going to type out what we're actually doing. Then after we have PS exec as the module that we're using, I'm then going to set the R host to be the IP address of my Windows system. So let's go ahead and get that IP address. It's 10.10.70.106. I probably don't need to copy and paste that. So there we go, 10.10.70.106. We're going to set the L host to be my Linux IP address, which is 10.10.117.128. There we go. I'm going to set the SMB user to be administrator. Like so. Hopefully I spelt that right because I always worry about that. Then I'm going to set the SMB pass to actually be the password hash. Now, stick with me. We're going to do it two ways, right? We're going to get that password first. Then we're going to dump the password hash off the system. And then we're going to log into the computer system without cracking the password. So we've got all of that. I need to catch up here. Which one did I do? We used the exploit. We set the R host to be the IP address of the Windows computer. That. And we're going to go ahead and I need that too. Let me grab that. Let's do the whole thing. Let's grab the whole thing so it looks right. I like the way that looks. Just looks better. So we're going to copy that in, paste it over here. And then we're going to put ticks around the command I want you to run. Then we're going to set the L host. We want that as well. So let me copy and paste this. Like so. So we'll copy and paste like that. And we'll put ticks around that. There we go. And then we're going to set the SMB user to administrator. Let's see if anybody can figure out how I screwed up with this. I screwed up in a way I told you guys, don't do this, don't do this. And I did it because I'm dumb. I think I'm dumb. All right. So we're going to grab that guy right there. We're going to paste that in like so. There we go. And I think I'm ready to exploit now. So I'll type exploit. There we go. All right. So I need to take this and make this a little bit bigger so I can screenshot it. Like that. So it looks good. I want that screenshot to be in there. Because the commands are important. Oh, it's not what I want. The commands are important. Come on, go away, guacamole. We get rid of that. There we go. Finally went away. Pull that over. Now we do this outside of it. So the commands are important, but I really find that whenever people can see the screenshots, they can match up the screenshots with what they're seeing on their system. And that just works really, really well to make people feel comfortable with what they're seeing. So there we go. So there we go. Now we got that screenshot. Now, once we're inside of the interpreter, we're going to run hash dump. All right. Now, I have dumped the password hashes off of this system. Okay. So I'm no longer looking at it from the perspective of I know a password. Let's assume that I get on one computer and there's a service or an administrator account where they're reusing that exact same password on multiple different computers. And let's say that that password is really a long, strong password as well. So I'm going to say now dump passwords hash. There we go. And I'm going to copy that command here. And then we're going to screenshot that as well. Okay. It's not where I wanted it to go. There we go. And we're going to put that around some tickies like so, and then we'll screenshot it. God damn it. I hate that so much. do that. And I'm going to grab that little screenshot right there. And now we're going to close our session. All right. Now, the reason why we're going to close our session is we showed you that I can authenticate to a Windows computer system with a password, right? I mean, whatever, right? So now I'm going to do exit minus Y to close our Meterpreter session. And we're starting over. Okay, so I'm going to take that command. We're going to copy that command in. Let me copy it. And then we're going to put it in here. And now we're going to rerun the set SMB pass command, but instead of putting in the password, we're going to put in the actual password hash. So now we're going to set the SMB pass to be the password hash for the administrator. Now you want the AADB3, then it's colon, and then before the next colons. You honestly only want one colon. And in your life, having one colon is much better, especially whenever you're dealing with password hashes. So we're going to grab that password hash and we're going to paste that down. All right. So we're going to paste that down. And I'm going to grab this as a screenshot really, really quickly, just so people can see how these two things relate to each other. And then I'm also going to grab the command, okay? Like that. And then I'm going to grab this individual command and the PS exec stuff there. That. We're going to grab that and that. There we go. All right. So now we have that screenshot. And then once we have established that password hash in SMB pass, once again, PS exec don't care, right? If it has the password, great. If it has the password hash, great. You never need to crack the password. Now I'm going to type exploit. That. There we go. And we got a Meterpreter session. Okay. Get that over here. Come on, go away. There we go. Go away, guacamole. So there's hotkeys that I use for screenshot that are the exact same hotkeys that guacamole uses. Come on. There we go. All right. So now it's, oh God, stop. So close. I am right there. I just need this last screenshot. There we go. All right. 4. Now we're going to grab that exploit right here. And we show that we have gotten code execution on that system with that. So we're going to re-enable the firewall. I'm going to exit -Y. Do that, copy that. Here we go. Now I'm going to show you that once we have done that, now if we have that firewall turned back on this system, so if we re-enable the firewall on our Windows computer, so we run netsh, there we go, netsh on, we copy that, and then we're going to try to rerun the attack, and you're going to see that now it's going to break, okay? Here we go. Do that. And then we rerun the attack. over here, exploit. So now, as soon as we do that exploit, we're going to get a timeout error from Metasploit here in just a couple of seconds. Yep. So whenever you're looking at the lapse, it will change that local administrator password on all of your systems. But if you have any other service accounts that exist on your Windows system and there is a shared password for that, this attack still works. So we see that a lot in environments as well. And I'm going to paste that in here. Well, congratulations, everybody. We have now made it through one of the dumbest things I have ever done in my entire class. I have actually created a lab with all of you live in real time. So now you have the lab. If you guys refresh your lab page, you go through and you run the Nmap lab. And then when you get to the bottom, it says, okay, we're going to disable AV, make sure the firewall is off, set the password. I did my password. You can make yours long. It doesn't matter. Get your Windows IP address, become root, MSF console, get your IP address on your Linux system. I have the password. I'm going to edit that back to password 1234. There we go. And you, once again, you guys can set that password to whatever it is you want it to be. It just doesn't matter at all. Make the changes. And then I think we got the whole lab built. Set the R host, set the L host, set the SMB administrator, set the password. Should look like that. Run hash dump, get the pass, reuse it with the password hash of the administrator account, exploit that system, kill it, restart it, turn on the firewall, exploit fails. So that was dumb. Shouldn't have done that. That was probably a bad idea. But I think it makes this lab like slap a little bit more, right? Because now you're actually seeing, you know, like just turning on and off the password, but now you're seeing why, or sorry, turning on and off the firewall. But now you're seeing that now if somebody steals a password hash, they can't log into your systems. It basically creates that internal protection for that lateral movement. So this is just the wireframe. We'll add in all the texts and things like that, but you guys have it. You all can do the lab. All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about internet allow listing. And then we are going to take a quick 10-minute break because I do need a break. That was kind of stressful to do all of that. But you guys, if you want during the break, you can now go through the updated lab. And now you know how to do a pass the hash attack using PS exec. And I think it just makes things much better. All right, so internet allow listing. If we're looking at the MITRE ATT&CK technique matrix, it really shuts down the command and control exfiltration sections, but it also shuts down the attacks for initial access. And the reason why is an exploit may be fed into your environment via a, let's say, it may come into your environment via an ad, right? If you restrict ads and you block ads in your environment, you're going to shut down that exploit. But let's say that the ad actually comes in, that ad may be allowed, but the command and control server that is setting up the C2 may not be as well. I got this error message trying to use SMB exploit on the first day. Same if you got it when it was turned on. Yeah, just kill your firewall. Yeah, it's usually the firewall problem. Usually it is the firewall. Go back and read those error messages as you see it. And the reason why this all works is because the internet is big, like really, really big. You wouldn't believe just how vastly, hugely, mind-bendingly big it actually is. And most of it is worthless and evil. It's actually most of it, the vast majority of it is worthless and evil, right? And many of your users will not stop clicking on links until they have hit every possible website on the internet. And then internet allow listing kind of helps keep that in line and kind of keeps it in the rails. Now, the problem with doing internet allow listing is people get really uncomfortable, very similar to application allow listing. But when we get back from the break, we're going to talk about why this internet allow listing doesn't have to be as hard and as horrible as you think it might be. So let's go ahead. Let's put 10 minutes on the clock. I'm going to go lay down on the floor for a little bit and wanted to say thank you very much for your patience as I did that lab. I know it's not wise to do that, but I think it's fun. You got to do things like that every so often. So with that, let's set the clock. Let's kick out the music. I'll be back in 10 minutes, everybody. All right. We are back. Thanks. Just needed a little bit of downtime, a little bit of a break. Get some something to drink. The delicious low sodium V8, everybody. Um, like I said, they aren't sponsoring me yet, but if they do, I would happily wear their shirts. Actually, are there any low sodium V8 shirts out there? Let's check on that. Let's see it. Low. Let's see. Going with a pretty solid no on that. I don't see any shirts with the low sodium V8 logo. I think we're gonna have to make that and give it away at conferences at some point, right? All right, so we're going back to domains. So I'm going to talk about why domain filtering is important, but I want to kind of set up ways that attackers get around various types of domain filtering and how we can do things on categories. One of the ways that attackers get around these is they can identify domains that have been pre-categorized that have came up for sale. So imagine that you're a church in like I don't know, Brazil, like St. James Church, right? So you set up a domain, stjameschurch.com, right? And you're basically categorized as a religious website. Then your church just doesn't work out. For whatever reason, it just doesn't happen. And then that domain that's already categorized comes up for sale. An attacker or a company like BHIS, we can buy those domains that are pre-categorized and use them in our attacks. There's been a number of really cool articles on this over the years. One of the best ones I saw in the past was from Spectre Ops. Oops, there we go. All right, and this is one of the tools that we have created at BHIS that you can download. And I'm hoping that maybe we can get a lab with this some point in the future. It's domain gain. So the way that domain gain works is it goes through and it downloads a list of recently expired domains. Then it sorts them by URL, and then it gets a SIMWeb and ACR score. Now, those SIMWeb and ACR scores rate those domains as to whether or not they are already categorized and whether or not they are categorized as safe websites that are out there. When it finds 498 of them are recently expired, checks to see if they're categorized, and it comes up with a list. And it says found 50 of these different, no, I'm not doing a live lab creation for this. And it says that warrantnavi.net was a brokerage trading domain. It's available for $10.79. Reich.org is entertainment for $10.79. A32 is available. EUbuy.org, Foundation Colossio, Odyssey, Blood Saves Lives. And you can see that these are categorized as entertainment, technology, charitable organizations, chat, and health. Now, when you look at this, though, I do have a question for you all. Like, how many legitimate websites do you think users go to? Like in your environment, like a lot of people are going to the same damn websites again and again and again. How many quote unquote legitimate websites do you think your users go to out there? Their domains, we're getting that list of domains that are recently for sale. So your entire environment, 75 to 150, right? 75, 150. Because if we think about it, people go to YouTube, they go to Facebook, they go to LinkedIn, maybe a handful of news sites. So let's say that you list those websites. You allow people to go to various websites that are out there and remove ads. Like I think everybody should start like right now in corporate America, we should kill labs with fire. Or not labs, we should kill ads with fire. We should absolutely destroy and remove them as much as we possibly can from as many places as we possibly can, because a ton of like malicious attacks come through them. One of the groups I like to talk about is NSO Group. If you go to NSO Group, they're a technology company out of Israel, and they have the Pegasus software, right? That's not the coolest thing that NSO has. Like Pegasus, as far as malware, is pretty neat. But there's a lot of people that can create malware for mobile devices. And I know the people at NSO would be like, well, our malware is better. And it's really good. I'm not saying there's anything bad about it. I'm just not saying that's the best thing that NSO has from a technological perspective. The best thing that NSO has is the fact that they can drop malware on systems through malvertisements with 0-click. So you can actually go into their app and you can draw a circle around a geographic location. And you can say, I want to find computers matching this profile. And I want to do targeted malvertisements where we can drop malware on those devices with 0 click, and it will do it. That is amazing, right? Like that's the stuff. Not so much like, hey, here's malware, but how does that malware actually get there? Okay. Now, this is just one group that does this. And by the way, nothing but massive credit to NSO Group in Israel because they created this software, they created this deployment. And who are the people that are buying NSO groups like 0 click malvertisement and these types of attacks? People that are buying it are Iran, Saudi Arabia, whole bunch of like really, really, really crazy despot kingdoms. And here's what is amazing about it. These are a lot of countries that are enemies of Israel. Like literally, Israel is selling the software to the people who hate them. And I guarantee you that Israel is getting access to those systems. Also, you've got to connect back. You can't just get the full suite of software. It has to connect back. This is literally a self-licking ice cream cone. Israel is getting intelligence on all of these countries, and they're paying for it. Pretty crazy, huh? So whenever I say, how about we shut down ads? Please believe me, we should really go through the efforts of shutting down ads. You can also do additional filtering. You can go through and say, what are the different categories that are allowed in an environment? We can allow news sites. We can allow, let's say, real estate. We can allow religion, whatever. But you're not going to allow this category right here that's over in the lower right-hand corner of uncategorized. I see that we're still up on the chat. We're going to have to switch it over to my slides here, everybody. There we go. That's better. So in the lower right-hand corner, you can see uncategorized. Uncategorized is exactly that. This means that Cisco Umbrella or Fortinet or Palo Alto have never seen this domain. It just shows up. It's uncategorized. They don't have anything for it. If Cisco and Palo Alto and Fortinet have never seen a domain, do you want your users to go to that domain? Do you? No. No, you don't, right? So you can allow a number of different categories associated with their jobs as part of DNS filtering, but you're going to get this thing called uncategorized. You want to block the uncategorized domains and websites that they've never seen. And of course, blocking ads as well. Right. Allow listing approaches, right? You could try to allow list each individual site. That's kind of dumb, at least most of the time. You can allow listing categories, let the users choose and go to sites. It seems insane, but you would be surprised. A lot of malware, they can't click links. They're like sad little T-Rexes. They're terrified, but they got baby arms and they can't click OK. So if you have your web filtering pop up and say, are you sure you want to go to this website? And you have to click OK to proceed. Yeah, that's going to shut down a lot of malware, actually. There are some really cool things like Pi-hole that has this capability built into it, right? You can actually run Pi-hole and it can say, hey, I don't know this website you're going to. Are you sure you want to go? And you have to click OK to actually go there as well. All right. So if you're doing it, you can get compromised through legit sites. Drudge, Facebook, movie sites, Huffington Post, porn, all of these different sites, they may deliver malware from the site itself. They may deliver it in ads, but that command and control server that it's connecting to most likely will not be from a legitimate site out there as well. So OpenDNS has the capability of doing categories as well, and you can basically allow specific categories and shut them down. This is the way to do it. Don't try to do each individual site, or maybe you should. Maybe you should. Why do you think? Okay, let's talk about the anime thing, and Cyber Ronin. Let's talk about anime for a couple of moments, all right? Why don't we just set up and say, for your job, these are the 15 sites that you need? And do it that way. Why don't we do that in America today? Not just America, on the internet. Users will complain. God, I wish it was that easy. I agree. Why do they complain? What's their problem with this? I would agree too restricted for those doing research. Yep, you can set up special exceptions, isolate those people, treat them like they have like, lepers. They're on their own leper island. So here's my point on all of this though. You could restrict people to go to the websites that they need just for their jobs because all of your users have a magical device that they can get to any website that they want. They want to get to personal email, it's here. They want to surf Reddit, here. They want to go to Drudge Report, here. Even if they want to surf porn, once again, I don't want to judge. It's creepy, it's weird, but it's here. It's not on your corporate asset. But the problem is, whenever somebody walks into my cubicle, if I'm sitting at my phone and I'm doing this, people are going to be like, oh, John is on his phone all day long. Whereas if I'm surfing the web on my computer, someone enters my cubicle, what do I do? As soon as they walk into my cube, what do I do? Alt tab. Go F4 boss mode. I love that one, right? Sure, we can do that. What I like to do, and I actually did this uh, in a job that I worked at. I had this going just like on a screen all the time. So if I was just, someone comes into my cubicle, I had this guy, we called him Stinky Joe. We called him Stinky Joe because he farted constantly. I don't know if you've ever worked or been around someone that farts and they do so proudly, which I have some respect for, by the way. I do. He always said it was a medical condition. I just think he was very proud of it, and that's fine. But he would just come into your office and he would just start ripping ass all the time. One time, he noticed that my cubicle was slightly bigger than one of his people that worked for him, and he came in after hours and he tried to move the wall of my cubicle over an inch and a half to get it so it was plumb equal. The wall fell on him and pinned him to the ground. It was delightful, actually. But what I always had up in my office was this. So if Joe came into my office like, hey, John, I just wanted to come in and talk about, you know what I'd like to do? Let's talk about the election. We're going to talk about politics, blah, 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 politics. Oh my God, politics. Hey, there's a lot of religions out there, but have you ever thought how some of these religions are just like for miscreants and blah, 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 blah. And I would have this screen up and I'd be like, oh, oh God. Oh God. Joe, I got it. Oh my God. I got to get this right now. And he would see me looking at this screen and he'd be like, what the hell? Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fine. All right. And he would just leave me alone. And then he basically just started telling people that John is like a hacking genius. Oh no, I think nope, didn't crash it. Yay. Oh, I did. I think I crashed Bash. Yay. But you do have some things out there like DNS over HTTPS. Now, DNS over HTTPS is another one of those weird things in information security. I am not a hacking genius. I hire hacking geniuses and I know my limitations, y'all. And when you're dealing with DNS over HTTPS, I really get the reason why DNS over HTTPS is so important, especially if you have a variety of different countries that people get hung from soccer goalposts if they go to the wrong websites. I get that, right? But you don't need it in corporate America. Like you just don't. There's a whole bunch of visibility that you get out there that you get from DNS. And if you do everything over DNS over HTTPS, you lose all of that visibility in your environment. Yeah, encryption is important, but we need to have that visibility out there as much as we can. So I don't really recommend allowing this for your users in your environments. All right, let's get on to vulnerability management. Last section of the class. Woo, woo. All right. So if you're looking at vulnerability management, in a lot of ways, it's the same as it was 10 years ago. You have a ton of vendors that are out there that they're trying to say, oh, we're doing cutting edge vulnerability analysis. And it's just like, oh, God. It really, it's like, same as it ever was, same as it ever was. Days go by, water flowing underground. By the way, in that video, he's doing this dance thing where he's moving down his arm again and again and again. Do you know what he's doing? The Talking Heads lead singer, whose name I just completely blanked out. Nope, he's not seizing. So with Dave, right there, there's the movement right there. So what he's doing when he's doing that is he worked at a burger joint. And I believe it was in New Jersey, and he would stack up burgers on his arm, take multiple burgers, and then he would take burgers to people. So he's replicating the move that he did by setting burgers up on his arm. So just repeating again and again and again, doing the same job. Kind of cool. All right. So vulnerability management, same as it ever was, right? Many of the vendors haven't changed with the times. They're trying to do all kinds of different things. And I'm going to talk about how you can do vulnerability management and do it in such a way that it is effective for you. So many of the vulnerability management vendors out there, they're selling the idea of vulnerability prioritization. And I want to talk about why they are talking about vulnerability prioritization. Harold Ford, a well-known industrialist and also a well-known racist, he had a quote that I think is fantastic. His quote was, "If I built what people wanted, I would have built a faster horse." And I love that quote, right? I think that that's a great quote. The problem in the vulnerability management space is everybody is going to the vulnerability management companies, and they're like, "Yeah, we have all these vulnerabilities, so many vulnerabilities. You know what we really need? We need the ability for us to be able to prioritize which vulnerabilities we should fix." Like literally what they're asking vulnerability management vendors to do is precog, look into the future and predict which vulnerabilities the attackers are going to hack. Now they try to dress that up and they're like, well, which vulnerabilities are hackers going after in our market vertical? Total bullshit, by the way. Just making that crystal clear to you. If you have a group of hackers that are hacking, let's say, retail, um, they're not like, like if you have a bunch of hackers in Russia, they're not like, "Dmitry, why are you using that exploit? We do not use that exploit. We're retail hackers, damn it. We don't use SSH exploits." That's not a conversation that hackers have, right? Hackers will go after any and all vulnerabilities that present themselves to the attackers, right? If we're sticking with the water themes, the attackers are like water. They're going to find the pathway, they're going to exploit those vulnerabilities, they're going to use those vulnerabilities. And this gets into a little bit of a gripe that I have with CISA. I get why they're doing it, totally understand it, but here's my problem with CISA. CISA is trying to say, here's the top 100 vulnerabilities that people are exploiting. Once again, I can totally sympathize with why they're doing it, but it creates damage. And the reason why it creates damage is many organizations look at lists like that and they say, these are the only vulnerabilities that I need to fix in my environment. No. Any and all vulnerabilities that are presented to the attackers are going to take advantage of in breaking in. Because if you don't look at it the correct way, you end up with blind spots. So we had a test that we were doing a long time ago. In fact, we still see this about 2 to 3 times per year, where we see telnet servers that are up and running on the open internet, right? Telnet servers. Now, some of you will say, wait a minute, how many telnet servers are actually on the internet? Excellent question. So let's go to Shodan. Quick, to Shodan. Shodan is broken. All right, there we go. So I'm going to log in with my Google account. There we go. Let's just do Telnet. Like so. All right. So I love it when people tell me, it's like, yeah, well, your example is using Telnet, and you don't see Telnet being used very much on the open internet because people, 369,106 freaking Telnet servers on the open internet. God, like just gonna need a moment. Making your way in the world today sure can take a lot. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? All right, 369,000 Telnet servers. So we see this still today all the time, where we see Telnet servers running on external environments. And we see vulnerabilities like this as well, right? So you can see like we had an organization we tested. It was um, it was a energy company out of the Middle East, and they had us test a whole bunch of their systems in India, and all of their environments and all of their systems had telnet running on it. So we scanned all these telnet servers, and it was like login, 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 router. Now, when you're looking at that, if something says router greater than, what does that mean? What does that mean? Yeah, it means no authentication. No authentication at all. That means you just simply telnet to it and it's there. Now, we shared this vulnerability immediately because it was it was their edge router. The organization came back and said, oh, geez, that's not our router. That's the router that belongs to our internet service provider. And we're like, oh, crap, can we talk to them? Internet service provider set up a meeting, talked to them, said, hey, this is Telnet, it's exposed, there's no authentication. And they said, oh, we don't consider that to be a critical vulnerability because our vulnerability management program says we only fix high and criticals. This showed up in the Nessus scan as an informational. I had to exploit it, take over the entire environment to convince this ISP that they needed to fix this vulnerability on their 1,600 externally facing routers to the internet. So yeah, if you're going to go through and you're just going to like look at those vulnerabilities and you're just going to look at them by critical and high, many organizations completely ignore any of the low and informational issues that are out there. And that's bad. Don't ignore those things. So if you're going to do this the wrong way, many organizations will address vulnerabilities by IP addresses. So if you have 1,000 IP addresses, let's say roughly 25 vulnerabilities per IP addresses, that could be 25,000 issues that organizations are trying to deal with. And now you can start to understand a little bit why so many organizations are constantly asking for vulnerability management companies to give them prioritization because they are literally drowning in vulnerabilities. 25,000 vulnerabilities. It can be incredibly daunting. And this is dumb. You shouldn't do this way. It's the way that a lot of people do it, but you just shouldn't do it this way because this way does not work. By the way, is Megan still on? Hold on.
Yes.
Can you check
You
on our
rang.
Spearfish General Store discount code? How would
Is
you all
Deb
like to
getting
have?
us one?
Yes, I asked Jason and Deb. They should have set one up. Can you ping them? Because we have something special for the people here.
Okay, I will get it, sir.
All right. More stuff, because that's what we do. All right. So when you're looking at vulnerability management, you should be focusing on grouping issues by vulnerability. You shouldn't be focusing on the IP addresses. Let me kind of explain this. This is really important. So when we're looking at vulnerabilities, instead of looking at 25,000 individual vulnerabilities that you're dealing with, you probably only have a couple hundred vulnerabilities that repeat again and again and again on multiple computer systems. So you clump those vulnerabilities together. This allows you to address those vulnerabilities through automation, through group policy, Puppet, Chef, Ansible, SCCM, whatever product you use for pushing out management updates and patches. You can address those vulnerabilities in one big shot. All right. So if you're looking at it, let's say we've got SSL TLS versions that are not compatible. That would be like a CVSS score of like 7.5 to 8. All right. You have 1,000 web servers. You can push out a config that'll fix that on all of them in one shot. All right. So give you an idea how much better this makes everything. At Black Hills Information Security and ION, so I do expert decision support, many of us have done scans of over 1 million live IP addresses. 1 million live IP addresses. And we had 2 testers and we're able to go through and address all of the vulnerabilities in less than 3 weeks. That's highs, criticals, mediums, lows, informations. The organizations that we do this on, both of the organizations, because we only have 2 that we've scanned over 1 million live IP addresses with, both of these organizations, when we did this, we found multiple critical vulnerabilities that were easily exploitable. We found multiple systems that were exploited. And when we brought these issues up to the customer was basically like, holy crap, we didn't know about these vulnerabilities. We have had multiple penetration tests from other security firms. They show up with 5 to 10 security analysts testing for months to get through these, and they didn't even find these vulnerabilities. Whenever you clump them by vulnerability and not by IP address, one vulnerability can show up on 100, if not thousands of systems, and you can address them all in one shot. I also want to call out, when you're looking at these vulnerabilities, you're really looking at the MITRE ATT&CK technique matrix in two separate categories. You're looking at exploit public facing application and exploit remote service. Vulnerability management is really important, but all of these other things tend to be ignored in so many environments today. Excuse me. All right, so now let's set up and let's talk a little bit. We'll share it at the end, Megan. How does that sound? Share it at the end in Discord? Only in Discord. We're not going to put it out on Google. If you're on Google, sorry, if you're on YouTube, you really need to get into the Discord server so we can get you guys set up. So we got some cool stuff for you all. All right. So if we're looking at vulnerability management, it's one thing to scan a bunch of things with tools like Nessus or Nuclei, right? But how can we look at our applications? Applications tend to be ignored, right? We look at web app vulnerabilities, we look at APIs, we look at mobile testing. These things tend to be ignored. So the question is, how can we quickly secure our apps? Training is incredibly expensive for many places. I mean, if you're looking at the SANS Institute, they charge $10,000 for 1 week of training. That's not abnormal. You see that at Black Hat. You see that in a number of different training organizations that are out there as well. Not anti-siphon. No, God, no. That's not, we don't charge that at all. But there are companies that do, right? Now, with that, looking at the tools, looking at the training, many organizations really get caught in a conundrum of how to fix these vulnerabilities. And if you're looking at the software development lifecycle for on-prem created products or COTS products that you purchase out there, you're going to look at continuous builds, continuous improvements, and many organizations, developers and internal organizations, they bolt security on at the very end. And that makes things really, really, really super expensive. Oh, wow, it looks like my terminal is flipping out. Come on, you can stop. I'll just close it. Oof, bad stuff. Boy, I really messed up my terminal with that urandom thing. Can I do a force quit? There we go. Let's do that. There we go. That's better. All right. So when you're looking at when you're doing that security correctly, you need to be implementing security at the beginning, throughout, and at the end. You've got to do it all the way through that process. Once again, for the apps that you develop in-house and the apps that you pay for, you need to be testing those apps on a regular basis. And this boils down to what a lot of people unfortunately look at in computer security. They tend to look at computer security as something that's incredibly hard. And in the industry as a whole, there's been a lot of work in the industry to make computer security look incredibly hard and make it look like a super elite thing that only super hackers can do effectively. And that's bullshit. It is. And this really goes back to the old days in DEF CON, right? You would go to these old conferences, you'd wear the black shirt like this one, anti-siphon security training. You would wear a shirt like this one and you would look super cool, and you would have, I don't know, you would have stickers on the back of your computer that say, I read your mom's email, and you got black fingernails. Like, you're trying to look like a real hacker, right? And people were just assholes because they were going out of their way to make all of these things look as elite as they possibly can, right? That's what they were going for. And the reality of the situation is, doing just basic computer security hygiene is not incredibly hard. Like all the things that we're talking about in this class, pretty straightforward to implement, right? You don't have to know how to write a heap overflow attack to be good at computer security, right? You just have to have good hygiene, and you have to have the ability to be able to handle this day-to-day kind of like just kind of the grind of keeping things going as much as you possibly can. And also, a lot of computer security is the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. You can achieve 80% of good security with 20% of the effort. You don't want to get hung up on the super elite things that are out there. Now, what and where should you test? Well, ideally, when we're looking at application security testing, you should be testing constantly, right? If you're a development shop, you should be doing this nightly. right? You should be doing this as much as you possibly can. We also recommend that you diversify the people that are doing application security testing in your environment so you have more than one person learning these skills in your environment. Test everything. The tools are so easy to use, there's no good reason not to. And believe it or not, this will make you a better developer, better systems administration, and so on. So what should you be testing for? Turns out these tools are really good at detecting a large number of attacks that are commonly exploited in the wild open internet. Things like cross-site scripting, SQL injection, command injection, misconfigurations. And roughly in the wild, 80 to 85% of the vulnerabilities that you see publicly exploited are these low-hanging fruit vulnerabilities that are really embarrassing. Now, do these tools cover everything? No, they really, really do not cover everything. I mean, they do a great job. They do a fantastic job, but they miss things like business logic errors, permission errors, stored cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, and that requires some manual testing. Now, getting back to like your threat model, these do get exploited, but they don't get exploited nearly as much as the really, really basic stuff. And the reason why is the attackers utilize tools that allow them to quickly and easily identify these vulnerabilities. And there's so many websites out there that they can exploit these vulnerabilities. If they don't find them on your environment, they move on. A more determined attacker will go after these vulnerabilities, which require some manual testing. And at BHIS, we're constantly pushing all the time to say, get rid of those vulnerabilities. My testers don't want to document 400 cross-site scripting vulnerabilities in your environment. They don't want to document an easy to find SQL injection attack in your environment. They want to find the really difficult business logic vulnerabilities that show up in people's environments. We want to go after those things that general security testing tools do not identify. And we often encourage our customers to actively find these vulnerabilities, document these vulnerabilities, share them with us and say, we are aware of these vulnerabilities. Go find other hard things in our environment, because that's what we want to focus on. Now, there's a bunch of tools out there. We use Burp. We use it heavily. It's not very expensive. It's a few $100s. If someone can get the pricing for Burp from Portswigger's website, I would appreciate it. But it's really, really, really not that expensive at all, right? So we're going through looking at this easy to use, cheap, $449. They have a community edition, but we're going to be focusing on Z-Attack Proxy. Z-Attack Proxy. But Burp is what we use in all of our penetration testing. I mean, this is what every tester gets at BHIS. It doesn't have a really super cool GUI. It has a GUI. It does have a GUI, but it's worth every single penny. Set it up as a proxy and have it go. In this class, we're focusing on Z-Attack Proxy. It's free. It's very similar to Perp. It's free, has a strong development core, costs nothing whatsoever, has the ability to intercept and modify requests. It's free. And it's available at, they're actually moving it off of OWASP. It's actually getting started out there. So it's moving to someplace else. And all of this boils down to, I desperately want people to get caught. All the testing that we do, all of the testing, whether it's application testing, whether it's something like Atomic Red Team, whether it's running a vulnerability scan, we should strive to identify the clipping level at which organizations can detect the attacks, all right? So I don't care what type of testing you're doing, from Nessus to Burp to Z-Attack Proxy, finding the vulnerabilities is one thing, but we really, really also need to step back and we need to identify whether or not the alerting is being triggered in our environments. And this is what we work with to kind of show what part of the MITRE ATT&CK technique matrix gives us the ability to identify them as well. So the key takeaway is we're moving away from can we be hacked, and we're moving instead to what can we detect. And if we're looking at MITRE, we now have a framework where we can look at all these attack techniques and we can see our detection methodologies and see if they work properly as well. Find the gaps, fill them in, and move on. So that brings us to our last lab of the day. Oops, I need to go here, go to intra-class files, back out, go to navigation. and we're going to do the web testing lab. So on the Kali box, there's a really lightweight web server that has a ton of vulnerabilities that you can learn web application testing with. You're going to become root, cd into the opt web testing, get ifconfig, start the damn small vulnerable web app. Then on your main server on RDP that you RDP'd into, you're going to fire up Zed attack proxy. It can take a while for Zap to completely load and completely update. Be patient. You're going to get pop-ups quite a bit on this. Then you're going to run an automated scan, and you're going to scan your Linux IP address, and you're going to get a bunch of results back from that system. Now, this lab is going to take us up to and through the break. I will see you all at 10 after. All right, we're back. I'm starting up my virtual machine. Like all of the comments about adulting out there. Um, I don't know, so a couple of quick things while my VM is starting up. I should be sharing my screen. I've got 67 seconds. A couple of different things. Like whenever I first got started in computer security, I really didn't get into it super heavy until the second season of American Idol. Might have been the first season. And the reason why is I remember I was watching, it was this season with Justin Guarini and the other lady, I can't remember her name. She became huge. But I missed my daughter's first steps. Okay. I was watching the stupid American Idol show and yeah, Kelly Clarkson. And I missed my daughter's first steps. I'm watching the stupid show and my kid ends up walking across the floor. And that kind of hit me really, really, really hard, right? So we literally did the whole poltergeist thing where he kicked the TV outside, and I really sunk myself into computer security. I really, really, really did. I just kind of I shut down playing video games, shut down watching movies, shut down watching TV, didn't have cable. I just lived and breathed this for a while to get to the point where I was actually caught up where I could do this, right? And it wasn't that hard. I mean, if I just did a trade of like the spare time things like video games or movies and screwing around at work where, like you get into a job, it's kind of crazy. You just kind of start focusing it. I've shut down Reddit. So I killed Reddit on my phone and now I'm relearning Python again because I haven't coded in a while. I'm getting back into it. But then the other thing that I'm going to kind of like point out, there's two things that happened to me that made my situation very, very lucky, right? So the first thing that happened to me was the case, let's see, Cobell. No, it's Cobell. All right. So I was right in the middle of this particular lawsuit. And basically, what happened is there was this world's largest class action lawsuit. And they hired the judge in the case, Judge Lampert, hired a pen testing firm to break in and they broke in and I was on help desk and it's a long story, but I was able to get a job on the security team at the Department of Interior, Mineral Resource Management. And when that happened, they completely shut down all of the internet here, all of it. So I had full unfettered access to an Active Directory environment, full enterprise, SQL servers, Oracle databases, you name it. I had access to absolutely everything from tip to tail right here. So, due to a court order requested by the plaintiff in the litigation, portions of the Interior Network, including the Bureau of Indian Affairs, were shut down beginning in December of 2001. So I think it was over a year where I was able to do anything I wanted in an Active Directory environment. All of the other people that I worked with, and I did too, right? They spent all of their time playing video games. The big game that they played was Total Annihilation, which is a great video game. Supreme Commander is a good version of that. There's a free version called Beyond All Reason that I still play to this day. It's awesome. But they played tournaments every day, all day long. And I would play this game too. But I also started spending all of my time learning computer security. And I spent that entire year just sinking into this and spending probably 6 hours a day learning all of these things. So I was incredibly lucky, blessed, however you want to put it, and having that as something that I could do. All right. The other thing that I had in my life, and I'm very, very grateful in that, is that I have my wife. I say many, many, many times the biggest problem that that I have in my marriage with my wife is neither of us really say no to each other. Of course, it does happen, but let me give you an example. Like I want to start a security company. My wife is right there. I want to start a product company in AC Hunter. I got that. My wife wants to build a huge garden on the side of a hill. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. My wife wants to get cows and start making her own milk. Awesome. Let's make it happen. So I had that support network. And especially whenever you're looking at like Black Hills Information Security, she is effectively the CFO. She's co-owner in the company, and she's been right there the whole time. And that doesn't sound like that much, but I want you to understand that I taught for the SANS Institute for 15 years. So I was an absent husband for at least 7 days a month. Most of the time it was 8 days a month. I was gone at least. And some years I taught 18 times per year. So I was away from my wife. I was away from my family for just ridiculous extended periods of time. And my wife was completely supportive of that. Now, of course, that was what was feeding us, but at no point was she like, they get these people, oh, the wife and the nagging. It's like, I never had that, right? So I had somebody that was really, really, really super supportive of everything that I did in this career field, which doing this for a while, it's different. Would I do it all over again? Yes, I would. There are some things that I would do differently. I would have quit the SANS Institute probably 2 years earlier. I think the last couple of years I was teaching for SANS, it was creating more harm to Black Hills Information Security and to me personally than it was actually worth. But it's really hard letting those things go. Honestly, I was thinking about quitting the SANS Institute in 2016 when my mom passed away. So when my mom was fighting cancer, and I'm killing time while Zap starts up, while she was fighting cancer, actually, like right at the end, like literally the week she passed away, I remember there were some people at the SANS Institute that wanted to take over SANS 504 from me. And So they wanted to take the class over, and they knew that my mom was dying because I didn't make it to SANS Vegas. And they set up a meeting to go through all of the problems that SANS 504 had. And they were going to do this meeting. They were going to go through, they were going to document absolutely everything that was wrong with the class to SANS management. And they knew that I wasn't going to make it. And I got a list of all the things that they found wrong. It was like a list of 63 different things. And I was able to make all of those edits in less than an hour and a half. And one of my friends, who's still beloved to me to this day, sent me the list, sent me the meeting invite, and I showed up to the meeting. I was in the living room of my parents' house, and I showed up to the meeting. They went through all of their things. I'm like, I fixed every single one of those things. It took me an hour and a half to fix those things. And I realized that that was toxic, right? And I probably needed to get out of that. So I should have left then, and I didn't. I stayed a little bit longer, and that just kind of sucked, right? So if you're looking at that, there's not much that I regret. There are some business decisions that I made and some people that I hired that I probably should not have hired. But all told, the way that we did everything, I think it wouldn't change anything on it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's do this last lab, and we're going to walk through kind of some of the closing ceremonies, as it were. So let's change our settings. We're going to change that appearance. We're going to change our font to size 18 so everyone can see it. Here we go. There it is. And let's go through the lab. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is become root. Then we're going to cd to the opt web testing directory. There we go. Then we're going to get our Linux IP address like so. And then we are going to start up our damn small vulnerable web server. I was a university professor. At one point, I was teaching for SANS, working a full-time job. I was a professor at Colorado Technical University, at Regis, and at just those two, Regis and Colorado Technical University. I was away 5 nights a week from my family. And that's really, really like how we were able to start BHIS and get out of Denver and all those things. All right, so we're going to do an automated scan. We're going to put in our Linux IP address, which is up here. I'm going to put that in. It's 10.10.77.184 colon. And I can't remember the port. It's like 65412. 65412. And then we're going to start our scan. Now, the steps that we're going through here are actually the exact same types of steps that you would do for any of the different like web apps that you're dealing with. So it's starting with crawling the website first, and then as it identifies the various vulnerabilities, you're going to see them show up in the alert section over here as well. The DSU folks, DSU wasn't even like for a computer security like idea, wasn't anything by the time I moved back to South Dakota. John Polly was kind of the main driving force, and that was well after I'd started Black Hills Information Security and got rolling on it as well. All right, so there you go. So now we're seeing cross-site scripting. We've got SQL injection, remote file include. So we're seeing all of these vulnerabilities, which is really cool because you can click on any of the vulnerabilities and it'll highlight why it thinks that vulnerability exists. So very, very cool. Easy tool to run, folks, like super, super, super easy, getting that low hanging fruit. And if you're playing around with this particular server, it's a great place to learn and grow these things as well. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start wrapping up. First things first, Megan's going to share with you all a discount code so you can go get some really cool t-shirts at the Spearfish General Store. So you can go and you can get in there and you can get those shirts. Maybe you can get a deck of cards. So we'll get that up. Megan's going to share that. Just our way of saying thank you for coming here and hanging out with us. We really, really super appreciate you and the time that you spend coming here. So we don't need to share my screen. We could probably go to Discord if we want. So I wanted to kind of run through a couple of different things. First, you're in our Discord server. If you're in our Discord server, you're our family, right? You're part of our family. You have a community. You have a place. And this is a highly regulated and monitored Discord server, right? We have directors of kindness, we have nerd herders and people that are constantly trying to keep this to be a positive influence in the industry. And we try to keep it clean. We try to keep politics. We try to keep religion. We try to keep all of these things out of it. And we're trying to keep that negativity out here as much, to keep it out as this water as we possibly can. Yeah, we try. And sometimes we fail. Sometimes people are assholes and they slip through, but we generally take care of it. So this is a safe space for everybody to come and be part of the community out there. So I wanted to do a couple of shout outs really, really quick. All right. So the first shout out that I wanted to throw out is we had a bunch of people that paid for this training. And I would love it if you all could give a round of applause for the people that paid for this training, people that paid to be here, because it's not possible for us to do this if we don't have those people present and accounted for and helping us through. I know that sounds a bit needy. Just stick with me for a couple of seconds, but it really does make this happen. I mean, you're talking about servers, you're talking about virtual machines, you're talking about Megan and Ryan and Zach's time, and Daryl is, I don't think Daryl's here today, but all of this, making this happen does cost, and these people make it possible. All right. The other group that I wanted to call out is I wanted to call out the people that didn't pay. Okay. Now, a little bit of background, a little backing up for just a couple of seconds. I have people that are like, well, people that can't pay, they could at least pay $5 or $20. And I understand that that's not true, because I came from a household where I had to like duct tape my shoes together to get them through a couple of months just so we could have enough money so I could have shoes. So the idea of like $5 to $20 in some households is not something that's just like flippant to just, oh, just do it. I mean, who cares? It's not anything. Just have one less latte this month. I understand that. I mean, I grew up in a house, well, not my whole childhood, but when I was in middle school, I grew up in a house that's probably a quarter of the size of this room that's behind me. All of our heat came from a wood fireplace. We had to split. We were dirt ass poor. It was bad. It was wonderful. There was a lot of great things, especially with my family. But seriously, I get that. And when you're looking at these people that didn't pay, I always talk about this in terms of what did they choose to do, or what did they give up to actually be here, right? So whenever you look at a lot of people that are at that particular socioeconomic strata, it's basically your time. Your time defines your value. And many people define your value in terms of like $25 an hour, $20 an hour, $18 an hour, or whatever. So whenever you choose to be here, you're giving up time with your family. You're giving up time to recover. You're giving up time to try to rest and recharge. And that time is absolutely precious because it's literally the only thing that these people and you have to be able to come here. And it means so much to us. We hired Zach a little while ago, and Zach's going to conferences and he's coming to conferences. And there are many, many, many times that we're at conferences and we get away from the table and like we're literally crying because people are coming up to us and they're like, I was waiting tables. I was driving overland trucks. I was doing a minimum wage job. I was working construction. I got a job because of this class and what you provided, and it fundamentally changed my life. We had Wild West Hackin' Fest this last year. I had this lady come up to me and she said, look, I cannot stress how much it means to me that you guys do this. And I'm like, we would appreciate it. She goes, no, 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 let me explain. And she told me a story about how she got a job in IT security. As part of that job in IT security, she got health insurance for the first time for her and her kids. And as part of getting that health insurance, one of her kids got a treatable form of cancer and was able to get top shelf care because she got a job. She came to this class. She put in the effort. So I want to say, can we do a round of applause for people that didn't pay because they made it all the way through this class? They got to this point right now. And it means so much to us that you're willing to spend your precious time with us here at Anti-Siphon, with us here in the training that we're doing for you all, with you all right now today. Because I believe that whenever we're looking at trying to get people into computer security, there's a number of organizations that they'll try to do things like scholarships. And we were going to do scholarships at Anti-Siphon, and we didn't. I don't like scholarships. I just don't.
Anti-Siphon training said when you are.
Oops. I don't like scholarships. And the reason why I don't like scholarships is because you're giving them to a specific group of people based on ethnicity, race, religion, sex, creed, whatever it is. And it's nice. It's a good thing, but it doesn't change the fucking game. Sorry, I shouldn't be swearing. I'm gonna catch badness for that. I apologize. It doesn't change the game. So with Anti-Siphon, whenever we set out with the pay what you can model, including that to be $0, we wanted to change the game. And we have. Like there's a bunch of like free and pay what you can training options out there. John Hammond, the Cyber Mentor. There's all these people that are starting to do this. I think Jerry has some stuff that he's putting out there as well. So we're starting to see that change. We're starting to get people to the point where they can come into this industry. And there is no barrier based on religion. There is no barrier based on ethnicity or sexuality, because all of those barriers ultimately boil down to one thing every single time, and that's money. And we dissolve that barrier. We open it up to everybody because we welcome absolutely everybody. And as far as closing this out, I have one small final request for everybody that is here. Help us amplify the signal. We're trying to get out and reach as many people as we possibly can to get them started in this industry, to get them rolling in this industry, to try to look at this as a pathway where people can still get a fantastic job that doesn't require a four-year college degree, doesn't require an associate's degree, but giving people a pathway that they can get into the industry. Help us amplify that signal. Whenever we post on LinkedIn, help us amplify. We post on Twitter, help us amplify. We post things and like talk about stuff on YouTube. Talk about this to your friends and your family, because you know people that have the skills, that have the aptitude and have the desire to come into this field, and we need those people desperately. So with that, I think that covers everything, doesn't it, Megan? We got the discount code, Spearfish General Store. You have the labs, you have the cyber range till the end of the week. You can use that as a certification to help you get a job. You can pay for additional time if you want more time. You can get access to all of that. So I just want to say thanks again, everybody. It's been a great week for you all. And anything else, Ryan, Megan, Zach?
I had a quick question from Zoom, are the labs going to be open through the weekend or just until tomorrow?
I think it's just till tomorrow. And
Okay,
then
just
there'll
till
be a
tomorrow.
little button that shows up so you can get additional credits and get that through anti-siphon.
Okay. That's the only question I had. Thanks everybody for joining us. We
All right.
appreciate everyone so much. Hopefully
right.
you have a good rest of your week and weekend.
You bet. Thank you so much. And hopefully see you on another webcast at some point. Go have a great weekend, everyone.
All right. With
Take
that,
care, everyone.
thanks everyone. Ryan, go ahead and kill it with fire. Have a good one, everybody.